Okay. Good evening. You're listening to the new WCEG Network on WCEGTalkRadio.com. Click live stream tab or watch us live on your smart TV. YouTube WCEG Network. I'm Dr. Wanzo, your host of Mind Matters for the next 2 hours. We're the worldwide community empowerment group where we speak life into the community. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and on Instagram at WCEG_talk_radio and at WCEG Network. Join the conversation. Call in or Skype at 1-678-619-1402, 1-678-619-1402. Ask your questions, make your comments, or voice your concerns. Let us hear from you. Again, at 1-678-619-1402. Last but not least, the topics and opinions are those of the show host and guest and not WCEG Network. Thank you for your continued support. Again, this is Mind Matters, where we discuss relevant mental health issues. I'm your host, Dr. Wanzo, a psychiatrist practicing in Atlanta for the last 28 years. Our co-host is Officer Paul DesVignes, who has over 20 years of law enforcement experience. Welcome, Paul.
Good afternoon, Doc.
We're affectionately known as the Doc and the Cop. Well, Friday is Valentine's Day, so what better day to talk about love and mental health. So Friday, Valentine's Day, celebrate love, love, love. If you're in a relationship, Valentine's Day may be one of the healthiest days of the year, despite champagne and chocolate. That's because love comes with health benefits, according to the research. Being in love improves your health, both mentally and physically. Here's what love does. Love makes you happy. And there's a biochemical basis for that. When you first fall in love, dopamine, which is the body's natural feel-good chemical, and it's associated with reward. It's very active when you first fall in love. So it intensifies your mood. People feel very positive and appreciate it. You're in that cloud nine feeling. That's in the throes of a new relationship. But you also experience a spike in the stress hormone cortisol, and that causes a drop in serotonin, which accounts for some of the erratic behavior people do in love. Passion mixed with anxiety, the obsession, nervousness, it all always goes along with blossoming love. So the dopamine levels may stay elevated as the love matures, but you'll likely see the cortisol and serotonin levels return to normal, which will help you calm down and settle back into the relationship without losing the mood brightening perks. Love busts stress. After the honeymoon phase subsides, all that dopamine starts to share real estate with another brain chemical, oxytocin. That's the bonding hormone. That's the hormone that mothers secrete when they have their child and breastfeed. It gives you a warm and fuzzy feeling that you experience towards your partner, but it's also good for your health, and that's oxytocin.
So it's not the alcohol?
No, it's the oxytocin.
Okay.
When people feel securely attached, their stress levels go down. Just being in the presence of someone who greets you with positive, rewarding, caring can lower cortisol and adrenaline and create an even keel, a homeostasis, which means your neurochemicals are back in balance, just being in the presence of your loved one. If you're away from your significant other, thinking about them, talking to them on the phone, or texting them can help conjure up those feelings. So we said that. So love makes you happy, it busts stress, but also love eases anxiety. Studies have pointed out that loneliness can hurt your health. It can increase inflammation, it can activate pain centers. Loneliness stimulates anxiety, and that's mediated by norepinephrine. When you are feeling threatened, the cortisol and adrenaline level arises again. That triggers your body's stress response. Being in love, feeling close to another person can reduce anxiety. Love makes you take better care of yourself. So when couples are together in love, they notice things about the other. Like somebody today was telling me that she noticed some changes in her husband, and it turned out to be some medical issues. Because if you're by yourself, you say, oh, it's not serious, but your partner who sees you every day may notice some things about you and cause you, to seek medical attention. And love helps you live longer. Again, love helps you live longer. Research shows that married couples enjoy greater longevity than singles, making death to do us part even more of a commitment. Studies suggest that lifelong benefits are largely explained by the consistent social and emotional support, better adherence to medical care, and having a partner who holds you accountable to healthy lifestyles and behaviors and steers you away from bad ones. Married couples have been found to have lower rates of substance abuse, lower blood pressure, less depression, improved prognosis in cancer and heart attack than single peers. But for those who are not married, a study in 2010 showed that longevity benefits were also linked if you had close social relationships, not just romantic ones. So that means your family and friends are good for your health too.
Got a question now. I hear you keep repeating this word love over and over again. Question I have. What exactly is love?
What's your definition of love? Everybody has their own definition of love.
And that's the reason I asked. What's the definition? Everybody has their own interpretation what love is, or who they choose to love, or how they love, or why they love. And I find it so amazing that as we approach Valentine's Day, they make the term love seem so generic. Every show that we watch, from romantic movies to romance novels, it make love seem generic. It make it seem like it's only one profile, and there's only one type of love, and it's that soapy, romantic, soap opera type. When in reality, people get stressed out trying to love somebody, especially when they're in a situation where they've never been in love themselves.
See, we're going to talk about self-love in the next hour, but I wanted to talk about like love from other people and relationships. But the next hour, we're going to talk about self-love. And we're talking about the benefits of being in a socially committed relationship, loving, showing that love and attention to your partner.
I've always found in a relationship, when you first meet somebody and you say that honeymoon period,
exactly.
Those first couple of weeks, months, a year, whatever, it seems like everything is so perfect,
right?
And you on this emotional high, and you constantly finding yourself going, wow, this is the best thing in life. The endorphins are flowing,
right.
Like you're saying. We got all the good
dopamine,
chemicals going on.
That's the oxytocin, all of those being released, yes.
At what point does one or both spouses look at each other and seriously say, you know what? I'm in love. We're in love. At what point does love transpire from mutual attraction until, we that couple?
Well, because people often talk about love at first sight. There really is no such thing as love at first sight. You can have lust at first sight, but love is something that takes time to develop. So if it's at first sight, then that's lust.
And and I find that most amazing because I hear people all the time say, the minute I saw her, I knew she was the one. Or the minute I saw he held me, I knew he was the one. And love, can also hurt.
Yes, it can be very painful when love is not reciprocated, love is taken away.
I I have so many different personal interpretations for love.
So you want to share those?
Well, it's kind of hard because it depends on the mood that I'm in, to be honest with you. I kid you not. That first love that I think most people really fail to really value the most is self-love.
Yeah, but we were going to talk about, I was going to transition that, but I wanted to talk more about the love in relationships and partnerships and things like that, like marital relationships, social relationships. Yeah.
It's funny, as far as my personal relationships, I look back on my history, especially my dating history, and, I find myself amazed at what I considered to be a priority in my life in terms of what woman I want and how I'm going to be in my philosophy, how a relationship should be. It's amazing. Here it is, a couple of decades removed from my 20s, and I'm totally the opposite of what I thought that who and what I was going to be in love and why I'm in love. In other words, I'm still just trying to figure out what love is.
So you're still trying to figure out what love is?
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out what love. I know what TV says.
But what's love to you, though?
Do you know what, for me, my number one criteria for saying I'm in love with a significant other? Peace of mind, happiness. Being with somebody who makes it easy to love them. In other words, I'm not talking someone with no standards or somebody who's passive, let me do whatever. When I say easy to love them, somebody who's reciprocal and open to being loved. It's easy to call yourself getting into relationships or dating somebody, but I hear so many people when all that endorphins or good times are over saying, I never really knew that person, or I don't like this or that about him or her, or we were never compatible in the first place. Then what attracted you and kept you as long as it did?
But you're right, 'cause like I said, when you talk about love at first sight, it's usually lust. It's the physical thing. But love is something that takes time to develop. It's that positive, unconditional regard that you have, for the other person.
But us also can be dangerous and dysfunctional too. One of the things I've discovered in dating, you got to be careful to really understand who you're dating.
You're right, because it can be obsessive. I have to admit that I was in a relationship with this person. Hope they're not listening. But at the point where I ended the relationship, this person became obsessed, like constantly calling, coming by the door. I refused, knocking on the door. And at some point, they climbed the balcony to the house and tried to come in the house through the upstairs window, and I had to call the police on them.
That don't sound like a relationship. It sounds like a horror movie.
But it started out as love, but then the person was so overly obsessed that,
now, how did it start off as love?
Well, actually, it was someone we had known each other through childhood, gone to school together, and then at some point we got into a relationship, and at one point it was love. He was very nurturing and kind and caring. But at some point, I just realized that I didn't want to be in that relationship. And then once I ended it, the love became obsession, like constantly, like I said, calling, stalking, all of that.
Now, this is interesting.
Right.
Someone you know for quite a bit of your life. You engaged in a relationship. You started off as friends, and everything that say you should. You're saying everything that say this should have been a successful relationship. But as it progressed, that love became threatening to you.
Yes, obsessive. It became an obsessive kind of.
And that nurturing, as you said, that care, concern became, where you at, what you doing, who you with, I called you.
Yes. That's not love. That is not love.
It's interesting because that love turned into something negative.
Yes.
And that's the reason I guess
I ended up calling the police because he broke the window, climbed into the house, and I called the police.
Wow, you've been through some adventures, haven't you? And I'm listening to this. I mean, I've never experienced. I've been in relationships with.
It's very scary.
As we like to say on the word on the street, the crazy women. Yeah. But at the same time, some people.
Oh, like the women who put the sugar in the guys, gas tanks and things like that. They just.
Thank God I never went through that. You know, you can put some super unleaded, but no sugar.
But I've heard women putting, sugar in the guy's oil, the gas.
And that's what I find so intriguing as we talk about this, because we're all coming up on Valentine's Day.
That's obsession and possessiveness. That's not love.
And I thank God I lived long enough to actually see that everything has a negative impact. And like you said, what was supposed to be loving and nurturing turned into obsession and stalking, and it could have been worse if this person was homicidal or suicidal.
Yes. I mean, the police came and they took him to jail.
But people confuse passion, you know what I mean? With, well, I just want to make sure that you know I love you, and I don't want anybody else around you.
That's control. That's control.
That's controlling. To me, that's the first level of domestic violence. When your so-called significant other starts to separate you from your support group, friends and family who care about you, instead of blending in and becoming a part of that unit, and where they love you and they appreciate you and they have great relationships with other people who are side of your world.
So so that's what love is not, like the obsession, stalking. That's not love.
That's not love at all.
But love itself, the real love, is positive for you, for your mental health.
And since we're on the thought of couples, instead of looking at it from an individual point of view, domestic violence is not love either.
No.
The dysfunctional relationships where you feel threatened, coerced, or worse, you're being physically attacked or mentally destroyed. Too many people confuse that with love too. Well, he or she acts that way because they're very passionate toward me. I'm like, listen.
It's not healthy.
Just because they say till death do you part, I don't think they meant through some kind of act of violence. But we coming up on Valentine's Day.
Yes.
And has Valentine's Day itself got so commercial?
Oh, of course it's commercialized. Very commercial,
we think we can go into Walmart, CVS, or go on Amazon or wherever you shop online and buy tokens of your love.
The tokens.
All the jewelry stores are saying, hey guys, come out here. We got that ring for you. We got the pendant. We got the charm bracelet. We got everything for you to show her how much you love her. Again, we turn in love until instead of a personal bond where two people really emerging as one, we turn it into a financial investment. We're turning it into a business opportunity for corporate America and the retail industry. But again, that's not love.
No, it's not love. So so far we've talked to all the things that love is not. But I like that passage from the Bible says love is caring, love is kind, love is patient. All the things in that verse. That's what love is.
Well, what we got now is people who are in love with the idea of being in love.
There's that too.
But they never took the time to work on just loving someone. And I don't mean to be a Debbie Downer, but it's funny how now I look at this concept of what my own philosophy of love is, and I'm learning, listen, just be somebody your significant other is happy to be with. Be somebody your significant other never worries about when something go bump in the night because you're right there.
Which brings us to, in order to have that basic sense, that's what we bring into, and I like to bring up like Whitney Houston. I know yesterday was the anniversary of her death. I'm not sure how many years, but yesterday was the anniversary of her death. But her song where she says,
"Saving all my love for you."
No, the greatest love of all is easy to achieve. Learning to love yourself is the greatest love of all. That's the basis for all mental health, is self-love.
But what's funny?
It's the key to mental well-being.
And the funny thing about it, including myself, for so many of us, that's the hardest love to achieve.
It is, but she says it's easy to achieve. But the thing is,
if it was that easy to achieve, Doc, you and your peers in the psychiatric field would not be needed. Even more so, you got more people who looking for somebody to love them versus they learning to love themselves first.
But why is it that people don't love themselves? Why do we not love ourselves? There's so many reasons.
Well, what's funny? Because you look at our parents and our grandparents, showing emotion and affection and hugging and kissing at one point in time in most societies was considered taboo and signs of weakness. And we didn't do that. Our parents were raised in stern environments. Their parents were raised in stern environment. Even as an adult, it's frowned upon if you enjoy your inner child. If you still have that wanderlust and a love for life, people look at you, or you immature, act your age. But at your age,
that's one way to practice self-love. Is like getting in touch with your inner child, like the things that.
But we're in a society that still frowns upon that.
But I'm saying it doesn't matter what the society. It's what you do for yourself.
Actually, it does matter.
No, I'm saying it doesn't matter for society. Society can frown it, but you've got to take the time each day to love yourself, do things for yourself, regardless of what society says.
I agree with you. But unfortunately, several weeks ago, we talked about suicide rates are rising. And majority of these people are stressed because their socialization levels in the communities that they are in their social groups, not being able to love themselves, not being able to express themselves freely, and being so concerned about being judged and being harshly treated because all they wanted was to be loved. And we know nothing is more dangerous to an individual with self-esteem issue than to be judged by those you're trying to fit into.
Right. So as to say, that's the basis of why we don't love ourselves. It comes from the messages that we've received, in childhood, messages from parents, teachers, peers, being bullied, and just in the whole school environment. There have been several studies who show that African American males, especially the teachers, may ignore them, not call on them, have low expectations. So it's the messages that we get all around us that can, involve us not loving ourselves. Like you've heard parents in the store, you'll be like in the store and the parents will pull the child out of you little, whatever name they want to call that child, a negative name they'll call the child, and, dumb or whatever. And the child keeps hearing those things and they, ingrain those thoughts into themselves.
And let me clarify for our CG family. The reason I went off point with this conversation and wanted to focus on loving yourself, because we are coming up on a holiday where it's meant for couples to come together. We're coming up on a holiday where a lot of people, let's ignore those for a second who have a Valentine to go and celebrate with, who in love or having somebody call love. There are a lot of people out there who this one day itself is going to be stressful. They're single, looking for love. There are those in relations trying to get out because that love is toxic. There is no love. There's no... This day is going to create just as much stress as the joy is going to bring. And we all too often fail to realize that, listen, that golden rule used to be treat people the way you want to be treated. That went out the window a long time ago.
Well, some people don't like themselves, so they're not going to treat other people.
Exactly, that's even more so.
They don't respect or like themselves. That's where you get all the black on black crime, because we don't love ourselves. And so when we see another black person, we're going to take out our anger and frustration and rage on them because we basically don't love ourselves. I mean, the lack of loving yourself has so many ramifications, especially in our community.
And when we look at that context and we look at a day, Valentine's Day, it's easy. It's almost like a smoke screen where it said, "Oh, it's Valentine's Day. Everything is gonna be okay." And go out there and be like, and trust me, I am truly not trying to throw a wet blanket on anybody who's having a great relationship. But today's show, Mind Matters, is really focusing on your mental health, especially on a day that reminds you, man, I don't have anybody, or nobody loves me, or I don't love myself. At some point, you gotta ask yourself, who's important for your joy? Somebody you want in your life to come in and give you joy, or that love yourself philosophy is where, you know what, I gotta make me happy first.
Right, because it's impossible to be in a healthy relationship loving someone else if you don't love yourself. You've got to love yourself first.
I used to have a problem with people with gender identity issues, because I believe, and I'm not that moral religious type, but I used to believe You're born a male, you're a male. You're born a female, you're a female. And I thought people who had gender identification issues, like, you crazy. Come on. Just look at your anatomy and tell you who it is. But now I'm at this point in life where, again, when I'm looking at what do I love? Who do I love? You know, my significant, I look at her and be like, what do I love about her? Man, I'm telling you, this love thing.
At what point did you realize that it was love? How long into the relationship?
For me, essentially, when I realized, damn, she can put up with me. You know, I'm like, wow.
Was that a matter of days, weeks, months? How long did you in the time frame?
And here's the funny part about it. I can't give you a time frame.
Okay.
I just realized, wow, we're still dating. I kid you not.
Okay.
When I found myself going, damn, she's still around, and vice versa, because one of the things that we able to identify and really work on is our personal flaws. I know I can be very inconsiderate in terms of what I want to do, my goals, my purpose, because my whole life is about I did what I wanted to do, and it's not out of the arrogance of, oh, I'm just a man and that's the way it is. It's because, yeah, I've been in great relationships, but I've never been married. So I've never had to answer to somebody per se who I'm in the house 24/7, 7 days a week for how long, how many years or a lifetime. And that really sets the tone different from somebody who, yeah, you had great relationship, but I have my house, you have yours. And we can get that break at times, you know what I'm saying? Even when the relationship is good, sometimes you just want to get away and have, and the funny thing about being in relationships that are long term, you deserve to have breaks where you can just
Your me time.
Yeah, some me time. And I've always enjoyed me time because I've never been married. You know, sometimes.
So how's the thought of being in a relationship with someone day in, day out living? How does that?
I'm learning really you discover truly how much someone loves you when you going through challenges, when you're faced with adversities, when you find yourself at a point you're like, damn, this ain't fun, you know, or you have these hard questions, you find yourself like, wow, you know, something. It could be anything for most people, but for me it was simply like, I'm looking at how I run my life and what's a priority to me, and I realized one day my purpose has changed. I didn't know when I went from thinking about what I gotta do to thinking what's best for us. That's when I realized, wow, I'm really in love at this point now.
Right. I've been married. There's nothing. I loved being married when I was married.
I've never had a desire to be married.
You haven't?
I've never cared about. I've always had great lives, and yes, brothers, I had a great bachelor life. I mean, I look back on it, and there were so many wonderful women that I had the pleasure of being blessed with, and really being in great relationship. But I failed them because ultimately they expected that marriage to come through. If the relationship's so great and you love being with it and we click so well, why didn't you marry me? Because
it's women, in this society from early on, you know, little girls are conditioned, you know, you're gonna meet the knight in shining armor, he's gonna carry you off, and you're gonna live happily ever after. So every little girl wants to grow up and, you know, meet her Prince Charming. Girls are conditioned.
And the funny thing about it,
that way.
The ones who even got those star-studded Prince Charming wedding. It's funny. Do you realize I have friends and family members who have better marriages and longevity, who went through the justice of the peace or did something simple versus those who had big elaborate weddings where everybody, and it was almost, and I'm looking at it now and I'm like, damn, everybody who had these got impressed the world weddings barely made it the 5-year mark. But I look at a lot of my friends and family members who had simple or justice of the peace, and they got the kind of marriages, not weddings, but marriages.
Remember we had talked a few weeks back about how people will, you know, spend all the money to impress other people. It's not for yourself, but it's about impressing other people, and that's not what you want.
My sister and brother-in-law, to me, that's the kind of marriage I want. And notice I didn't say wedding, because they were both in the military at the time. It was simple, like a justice of the peace thing. And this was almost 34 years ago.
Remember the comment that we said at the end of that show, that more people spend time preparing for the wedding than they do for the marriage.
And I believe that.
For the marriage,
because,
the
this is why I say, what is really the definition of love? Because you love the idea of the status, I'm getting married, or I'm marrying this person, or this person, it's all about how does reflect the status. And I understand we all want to feel like we with somebody that makes us, or we the one to upgrade. But at the same time, if that wedding is your biggest priority, at what point do you realize that after the wedding, there's a marriage? You have to invest into that marriage to be that couple that you say gonna stand the test of time. But I've learned that it's not that honeymoon period when everything is all great that really makes a great marriage. It's how y'all bond together and become one during times of adversity. When you have the moments where you're trying to decide, both of you mutually, should I stay or should I go? When you broke down 2 o'clock in the morning and this person get out of bed no matter what in a blizzard and come out there and get you. Basically, to me, love is now, when you reach a certain point in your life, you just want somebody to care about you. You know what I mean? We're not looking for that fairy tale love no more that you see on TV.
But like I said, it's a fairy tale. And so oftentimes you have two, because people say, my better half, but you don't want two halves in the marriage. You want two whole people.
Exactly.
To a marriage, not two halves.
And I'm at this point now, I'm like, listen.
A whole me like the self-love.
I'm in love. I got somebody who loved me snoring. I have somebody who loved me at times. She'll say, I was saying, you go to the store for one item. You were only 10 minutes from the store. Why is it 2 hours later? You gotta talk to everybody. Oh my God, you gotta browse this. Can you please just go to the store sometime and get whatever I asked you and come back home? And I realized that patience, oh my God, that's what you really gotta know who you are marrying, or you saying you in love. Because there's a lot of people love folks a lot more than that person love you.
So let's get back to, since we were talking about self-love and how people come to not love themselves. We talked about messages people get from parents, teachers, messages you get from, people who bully you, negative messages. And I would say teachers play a very important role. I know in my own experience.
Teachers?
Teachers in terms of self-love. Like if you have a teacher, like when I was in grade school, I went to predominantly African-American grade schools and junior high schools. And the teachers there, they really cared. I've heard experiences where it's not been the same. So I grew up having a love of school and self-esteem because I had teachers who were very positive and went the extra mile, and they cared and they were dedicated. These like primarily African-American schools, but I understand the experience. Like in some students when they're in private schools or predominantly Caucasian schools, the teachers aren't as kind and loving, and they tend to, say, ignore black students. Or, in fact, myself, like once I got out of, because in junior high school, in grade school and junior high, in fact, I was often like the teacher's pet. So
you look like the teacher's pet too.
I was the teacher's pet.
It's funny. Every now and then watching the news, especially Fox, they always want to have a feel-good story about a teacher that went above and beyond and really connect with the student, and it's so amazing. And this teacher should be stand out and should be noted because this teacher is always give all herself to her students. And I say to myself, wow, I'm really happy to know there's still teachers like that. But shouldn't that be all teachers?
Well, they should be, but what about the teachers? Did you get positive messages from your teachers as well?
First of all, love has become more political than life itself. So let's just face it.
What do you mean?
And I'm glad you brought up the subject of teachers, because the teachers, or the way they're allowed to teach, is so totally different than when I was in middle school, elementary, pre-K, than it was for you. You may have a few years on me, but Doc, it's funny because as we progress technology-wise, have we become more, how should I say, tech savvy, the whole human component has been removed. So I don't care what nobody says. A child's first love starts at home.
Exactly. So that's why it's so important for the parents to give the child a sense of love. I say, haven't you heard like parents in the store call kids
but those
names?
Are parents who never been loved themselves.
Exactly.
So when people,
they're repeating the cycle.
And I hate to hear people talk about, back in the day. Back in the day was no better than it was today. And the sad part about it, millennial, there's always something negative to say about each generation, from baby boomers to millennial to when I was a child we did this and that. The bottom line is society is evolving. Everything that we see that's negative, that's the part of that evolution of society. And it's like parents right now, we got the juvenile crime rate that's off the chain. Ladies and gentlemen, last time I checked, there's no such thing as a born criminal.
But you see, I understand you see like the parents giving the little kids their iPads and phones, and not spending the time. The kids they're using the iPads and whatever iPhones.
And now we're developing the criminal. We're developing an active shooter. We're developing someone who don't know how to socialize. Because if you were raised in a household where you were neglected and it was condescending and you wasn't loved, how do we expect them to go to school and be somebody? So in terms of developing self-love, it's very important for parents to spend the time with the children, read to them, spend time with them. Like I said, I have very fond memories of my childhood when my father, he would on the weekends take us to the library, to the museum. But I got a question. Did your mother work? My mother's a teacher. My father was a minister. So they both worked. Both of your parents were working, and your father being a pastor. And I don't know how pastors, because we always think, the only time they do any work is on Sundays. But he didn't go outside and work a 9-to-5 job. He was a pastor, correct? At different points he did. Yeah, he did at different points. But mainly he spent a lot of time. He always found the time to spend time. I mean, I just remember fondly. I mean, I just... And see, that's what I find most interesting because... Yeah. Like I said, I thought that everybody had parents like that until I got into the field and realized that, like people did. You had I thought everybody did. I assumed privileged Brady Bunch. I would say privileged, though. It was a nurturing environment. We had, my brothers and sisters. It was all very, loving. I mean, of course, we had some sibling rivalries and all of that, but it was a blessing to be, I think, raised with nurturing parents. And it's funny, mine was just the opposite. My parents coming to the U.S., very, very young, you'd come into a country where you had to learn not only the system, but you also have to support children, very young children. You're in a position where, you can't afford to spend home the nurture and the care, because unfortunately you got rent, mortgage, kids to feed. But you can't spend time with the kids? And that's the funny thing about it. Or hug, kisses, most immigrant parents especially that first generation coming, you'd be amazed when you say spend time. Their time, most valuable time, is just trying to build a household, working hard to establish. Later on when reading bedtime stories. First, ask yourself, especially in predominantly black communities. And I don't know how they do it now, but when did that become the norm in the black community? My parents, they read us bedtime stories. But yours was so rare. Because unfortunately, sometimes the ignorance of the black community, when we would sit up, that's what white people do. We don't sit on that. Read bedtime stories? You would be amazed, because I can't think of one of my friends growing up, including myself, who parents read us bedtime stories. Okay. And see, that's what I'm saying. And that shows sometimes the difference. But I'm sure there are those of mine who did. But even in the neighborhood growing up, even if your parent did, you wouldn't admit it because, listen, be like, yo, are you kidding?
I can even visualize them. I can remember and see some of the pages in the books that they read. I can see them.
And that's funny and it's funny you should say that because, the household so many of us grew up in a good old-fashioned West Indian household. It's funny because I know my grandparents. I've never heard my grandfather say, I love you, hold, hug. And he only been to the U.S. 3 times in my whole life that I'm aware of. Even going home to Trinidad and spending time, like you go for the holidays or the summers or whatever. It was never a loving, hugging, that environment. And I'm not saying everybody's like that, but a lot of people who grew up.
So growing up, like your parents didn't show affection?
That wasn't even remotely. Really? And it's funny because my parents are a lot more expressive now than they ever were growing up. And it's funny when we have talks like that, one of the things is amazing, especially my mother was here to TSA, it was like not growing up in that kind of environment did not naturally value that as a part of, because discipline and sternness was the way. And my grandfather.
Did you have a sense, or did you feel loved when you grew up? Did you feel that?
No, I didn't.
You didn't feel
you,
that they
you
loved
can't feel love. Or you
did
can't
you
get love from people who never known it themselves.
So you didn't feel love?
No, my grandfather was very stern about business, discipline type. So of course my mother and my uncles and them were raised in that kind of environment, and they too are to that. And it wasn't until as an adult do you realize that even for me at this age that it's only now that we say, hey, love you at the end of conversation. That was...
Who, your parents will say that now?
Because I started doing it and forcing them. Hey, love you. And my siblings and so forth. It's, it took years to uncondition ourselves to just say, hey, love you. To the point where you say it automatically, not because, somebody said it to you, you got to follow up. Or I hit my sister, hey, beautiful, what you up to? Work, blah, 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 blah. All right, well, cool. Listen, hit me later. Or are you playing around like, girl, I love you, right? That was not the norm. Even with my own children.
So what about with your own children then? Was it any different when you raised your children?
It's funny. It took me, again, to start realizing that, hey, especially when they start getting older, and, and my daughter's an introvert to her heart. My son used to be, she's an extrovert.
Okay.
And my son was initially, and then slowly become to that introvert. He can go back and forth. But it was them, those two, when they would say, love you, daddy. You know what I mean?
Okay, and so they initiated it. So
and funny enough, it can be the children who initiated it. So where do you think
they got that from? Where did they learn it from and observe it from?
That was a family thing. Because, like I said, my sister and husband, my brother-in-law.
Was your mother very loving?
But
your children's
No, that's what I'm saying. We start to force that even out of our own parent, which is their grandparents.
Okay.
To the point now, you don't begin or end the conversation with "I love you." You know what I mean? Without "I love you," and it's not like a generic, you just say it to be saying it because you expect to say it. It's that whole, we've really each generation has nourished the other. Because instead of saying, it was the parents' job to nourish the kids and that's the way, actually, the children have really helped a lot of parents break the cycle of saying, that's not value, you don't love. But really, sometimes just telling I love you to somebody, just because can really open up a door and be like, wow, when I hear my son said, hey, Dad, I love you, man.
Okay.
And it's so funny sometimes, but then I'll be like, wow, damn. I would have never, especially at his age, said and did that with my parents. And I've never ever remember growing up where I love you or just that nourishing you talk about was how our household was. I'm still learning how to love and be loved. Which means even myself sometimes I have to remind myself, hold it, stop. If a situation where I would normally be like, really, what you think? Catch myself, say, hold it. Yeah, I gotta say and do something, but think about how you're gonna say it. What's your tone? I stop reacting when I'm mad. That was the first sign that one day I realized, damn, maybe I am maturing. Because I don't respond when I'm mad anymore. If anything, let me remove myself from this and think about this. Because, you know what? I know that I'm better in relationships because I look at both sides of a situation, even an argument or whatever you want to call it, before I react and respond. Because I've also learned I'm not always right. And I was shocked by that. But seriously, it's amazing how love evolves when you're in a relationship to somebody that you feel secure with.
Exactly.
And I don't always have to be the man because I said so, or this the way it's going to be. I love you because I feel secure. I feel free to be me. I feel we can laugh and let our inner child come out. I feel we can handle business like adults. I feel we got good business sense. We got good chemistry. And most importantly, I know I'm in love because we have a purpose that's long term, not here and there. I still lust too, don't get me wrong. But I lust the right way.
What's the right way?
And it's funny. The right way is when you find, no matter how long you've been in a relationship with somebody.
Oh, you mean the person you're in? I thought you meant like lust outside the relationship.
And lusting keeps a good relationship healthy.
Well, yes.
You know, it's like when I hear people say, yeah, man, just that's because you've been together or you're married, that means you still can't date that person. And that's true. I mean, come on, as a man, you know how you used to little Copperfield from your woman, she cooking, you come up behind there, you wrap your arms around her, get a little hug. Yeah, you know, like a little pat on the butt or something.
Copperfield. I thought you were thinking Copperfield, David Copperfield.
I still Copperfields. Even if he yells, stop it. At your age, blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, if it's acting my age, then I'm right where I need to be.
I just think it's great when I see older couples who can't keep their hands off each other. I think that's wonderful.
And really, see, that's it, dog.
That's love, yeah.
There's nothing wrong with being in love physically and showing it. When somebody can't keep their hands off you, and I'm not talking using or abusing you, or you're there for their pleasure, but I mean that bond. One of the things I love to see when I'm out, because I'm a people watcher, I look for people no matter what age, hold hands.
Yes.
Do you realize how many people in relationships don't hold hands?
Yeah, some people are averse to it, like the PDA, public display of affections, but I'm all for it. I think that's wonderful.
One of the things that it's a red flag me if I'm dating somebody and they have very strong negativities about PDA. Yeah, don't tell me like that. Right then and there, that tells me, you know, even behind closed doors, now there are too many conditions in this relationship.
Absolutely.
When you come into a relationship with somebody and everything about just conditional, you feel like you got to walk on eggshells, ask yourself, do you really want to be in that relationship?
That's one thing I use the word conditions, because love is unconditional. That's one thing about true love. It's unconditional. It's not based on this situation. It's unconditional.
And it's funny because even that term, what is love? Unconditional, is so vague and generic.
No, it's not vague. Unconditional means I love you if you do this or if you do that. You love them no matter what. So there are no conditions.
But even still, Doc, it's like a generic term that doesn't.
Generic. It's specific.
To me, like in my relationship, let's be specific.
No, but unconditional means that you love that person not only if they wear this or don't wear that or whatever, act a certain way. You love them regardless.
I hear you.
Which is how you love your children and other people. No, you don't love them based on the conditions of.
I understand the whole meaning of it, but to me, that's too generalized for me. I dating somebody, first of all, I can be a big kid and immature at times. That's my life and how stressed it is. I'm an adult 24/7. But even the most hardcore adult want that downtime. You know, when you're that person who take care of everybody else, sometimes you just want to be able to sit back and let somebody take care of you.
Of course.
Sometimes you want to let the weight of the world off your shoulders. Mm-hmm. That's why I think a lot of people succumb to the stress in life, because they constantly feel pressured to live up to something. And a lot of times, it's not even your goals or standards you're struggling to live up to. It's the perception of others or what society tell you who should be to. Listen, we all know we have a responsibility as adults to be good providers for our family, to be security for our family, to be good citizens and all that stuff. But, at some point, Doc, seriously, with all this that you expected to be for society, when do you have time to be happy? And for some people...
Well, that's something you have to take upon yourself to do each day. Find something that you enjoy.
There you go.
Whatever, if it's a manicure,
and you should have to feel like you're sacrificing one for the other.
Take time for yourself. You got to find that time for yourself. Everyone needs to do that.
And so when we start talking about significant other, whoever you say you're in love with, at some point, find something about that person that makes you happy, that doesn't require you, or they do this if you do that.
Exactly. That's the conditions I'm talking about. That's what conditional love is. That's not love. Love itself is unconditional. That's one of the aspects of love.
Love ain't easy. I tell you that.
It's not easy. No, it's a
and I don't
care
what nobody say.
Journey. It's not a destination. It's a journey.
Love hurt. Oh my God.
I was thinking, like, when we talk about self-love, I don't know if you saw the movie The Help. Did you see the movie The Help? That's the one with Viola Davis, and she was maid in there. That's the one where the woman made the pie. But I remembered and wrote this down, like something that Viola Davis, she kept saying to the little girl she was taking care of. She kept telling the little girl, I mean, I know that it's not grammatically correct, but she kept telling the little girl, you is kind, you is smart, you is important. So she's trying to
build up her self-esteem.
Yes, exactly.
If that's the case, then...
you is kind, you is smart, you is important.
Why do we have even more people now at this day and age with us being so technologically advanced and so much smarter and so much access knowledge? You have more and more people now than I think then who have self-esteem and relationship issues.
I don't know if it's more, but I guess it's self-esteem is the key to everything, because when your self-esteem is low, you're more prone to have anxiety, depression, poor relationships, and drug addiction. That's like often the basis for people who become addicted to drugs. So they're looking for that high from the drugs. So the drugs give you the increase in the dopamine, which is what the love should be doing.
In that case, isn't it crazy in 2020, suicide rates across all demographics are rising?
Rising, yes.
And that's crazy. That means there are more and more people who can't find self-love.
Exactly. Yes.
And unfortunately, a lot of them equate that to I'm not being loved by external, whether the parents, your significant other, your friend. But damn,
that's where it starts. Like you said, like not getting it from the parent. I mean, that's the basic. The number one bond, like the mother and child. If that mother,
hey, what about the dads?
Well, that's important. But I'm saying the first bond that child has is with the mother. In terms of birth and the childbirth and the connection. Often, because when the mother is carrying the child, for 9 months, you develop this connection, this bond, and that's something that carries on, for a lifetime.
Do you think a dad bond can translate that same bond?
Well, there is a father bond, but I'm saying that's the basic, the first bond that the child has.
I hear you.
And if that's disrupted or if that's not normal, then that can be the basis
and it's
for
funny because, again, that's still based upon the perception of what the traditional society is supposed to be like. Mom stay home, dad go out and work.
No, it's just biologic. The bond, whether the mother's working or not. Like I was in my internship when I had my son, but there's still that bond. I mean, I was doing my internship when my son was born. So.
And the only reason I'm stressing it because over the years I met some incredible single dads.
Okay.
I mean, really amazing men.
So at this time, then we have to take a break. We'll be back in a few minutes. So
outstanding.
But when you return after the call, we would love to hear from you. So please call us at 678-619-1402, 678-619-1402. After the break, we'll be back with you shortly.